Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews, it's your number one source. Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Another Friday, another Sports Card Nation on the docket for today. I am pretty excited. I usually am, but definitely excited for this week's show. Got some good news. Headed to the Dallas Card Show the weekend of May 20th, 21st, 22nd. Did not look like I was going to be able to make that trip. And thanks to my good friend John Keating, that 70s Card Show. I had some expiring frequent flyer miles that he let me use, and I'm going to make my way back down to Dallas. I did this last year about the same time, and went to Dr. Beckett's content creator dinner. We're doing the same as this year, and obviously the card show itself, where I'll be on the hunt for that card I mentioned that I've put some money away for, that being the 1948 Leaf Jackie Robinson in a low-grade condition, obviously. And I also want to thank my friend Brad Bethune, Texas Card Dude. Stayed with him last year and has made that same offer this year as well. So looking forward to the trip, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, leaving early Friday and returning late on Sunday. So it's going to be a full 3 days, and looking forward to seeing everybody. I know a lot of people in the Dallas area, and too many even the name. Looking forward to seeing John Keating there, obviously Brad and Dr. Beckett, Rich Klein, and if I didn't name it, Eric Norton, Jeff Hoffer, Mike Moynihan, all those Dallas brethren, Texas folks, all great folks. I look forward. I thought I'd see him at the National, but get to see him an extra time here with this Dallas trip. Might get some other things in there too. You got the NBA playoffs. If the Mavericks are still alive and home, maybe catch possibly a Mavericks playoff game. You got the Dallas Stars in their Stanley Cup run. Maybe catch a Stanley Cup game, and then you got the Rangers are out of town. That I know, so no Ranger game. But Frisco Rough Riders there, I believe Double-A team of the Texas Rangers, have a lot of star power there as well. So I always like to take in some sports when I travel. Probably do some recording. I do have some new recording equipment specifically for road trips, a road mic and that sort of thing. So maybe they'll make the debut on this trip rather than the National. They'll be making the trip with me, so I'll put them to use in some form or fashion. But if you're going, and I'd love to meet you. So find me. I'll be the ugly guy walking around, easy to spot. But all joking aside, looking forward to the trip, hanging with some good friends, eating some barbecue. I'm a foodie. I got the belly to prove it, and look forward to doing some grubbing, Texas style as well. But if you're going to the show, Dallas Card Show, the May, I think it's 19th, the 22nd. Love to meet you if I haven't already, and if I have already, love to see you again and talk hobby or talk whatever, on the docket. So I just wanted to point that out, and sort of unexpected. It was kind of not looking good when I was trying to get airfare, and even the times of the flights were really not convenient. But good friends in the hobby, right? The hobby's the people, and good friend John Keating, Brad Bethune, come through in the clutch, and I'm going to be able to make this trip, and excited to say the least. So there's that. Excited for this show. Today we got not really, someone from the hobby directly. We're going to talk a little bit about cards at the front end of the interview. Well, but it's someone most of us do know nonetheless, from one of the best, if not the best, baseball movie ever made, Field of Dreams, actor Dwier Brown. John Kinsella, right? Wanna have a catch, Dad? He played Kevin Costner's dad in the role. That scene, which obviously takes place towards the end of the film, gets me every time. I cry like a little baby. I'm not afraid to admit this on a nationally listened podcast, and it doesn't matter how many times I see it. It could be the 40th time or the 50th time I bawl, and just reminds me, of my grandfather, who pretty much, practiced with me baseball, and passed away when I was 12, and after, at that point I'd become a pretty good baseball player, and think about him, not just on that scene, but definitely that scene really makes me think about him and others that I've lost in my life, and really hits me in the feels, as the kids say. And just one of the most iconic scenes from any movie is that scene, when Costner realizes who he is, and says, "Hey, Dad, you want to play catch?" And they do, and then all the cars come in. But we're going to talk about that movie. We're going to talk about, in a sense, how Dwier Brown sort of become everybody's dad or uncle or grandfather in that scene. And it's a responsibility he takes seriously. And like you're going to hear him say, that scene gets to him too. And he's in it. And it's still, when he watches it, it really hits home. He lost his father 1 month prior to making that film. And that was a factor in some things. I don't want to, tell everything, but he's going to tell you some things that I don't care how big of a fan of the movie you are, even like I am, that I didn't know, and you won't know until you hear from him, about the corn, even as little details from the corn to that scene where all the lights coming up the road, all the cars coming. This movie was done in 1989 before the CGI we have now. Those are all real cars. And he's going to talk about how that scene, how they did it. It was done in a special way, and how it almost didn't get in the film. There was some issues there. He's going to, so he's got a lot of behind the scenes stuff you may not know, even if you're a super fan of the movie. It was a great interview. I enjoy all my interviews. I truly do. I'm not just saying that. But this one, because of what the movie means to me, and how iconic it is, and to have someone like Dwier give some time, come on the show, and kind of let us behind that curtain and share some stuff that, only people would know by someone from the movie kind of telling them. There's a lot of stuff he goes over. I think you're going to find it very interesting. I know I did, for sure. One quick programming note. It's not terrible at all, and I even had cleaned it up a little bit. Dwier was having some construction done around his house during the time of the interview. He was also leaving on a 10-day trip, so I didn't want to reschedule. Wanted to get the interview done. So you may hear in the background, a beeping or, machinery sort of sounds. It doesn't take anything, doesn't block out any of the vocals or anything like that. But if you're wondering when you hear a beep or some sort of noise, it's he's having some construction done at his house, and so it's not too bad. I'm probably making it out worse than it is, but just so you're aware what that might be. So with that being said, let's get this show going.
Hello, this is Mark Hoyle, and remember, the hobby is the people.
Hey, John, you want to have a catch?
The Sports Card Shop is your small-town local card shop with a global reach. Located in New Buffalo, Michigan, the shop is one of the most accessible in the Midwest. In addition to being an authorized Panini direct dealer, the Sports Card Shop carries all major trading card brands, including Topps, Upper Deck, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and more. With all that new wax, 500,000 singles, and showcases full of graded cards, you're sure to find something great for your collection. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned collector, the Sports Card Shop is your one-stop shop. So call us, come see us, or visit us on the web and social media. Our phone number is 269-469-0140. Website is thesportscardshop@moco.com. The Sports Card Shop is part of the Moco Retail Group, connecting sports, the hobby, and people around the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. The show starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready? It's showtime.
All right, my next guest is an actor, an author. He's appeared in TV shows from House, CSI, Criminal Minds, Rizzoli and Isles, Ally McBeal, movies such as To Live and Die in L.A., Cutting Edge, Red Dragon, Gettysburg, and another one you might have heard of called Field of Dreams. He's the author of the book, If You Build It, a book about fathering, faith, and Field of Dreams. I'm honored and privileged to have on actor Mr. Dwier Brown. Thank you for joining Sports Card Nation today.
My pleasure, John. Good to be here.
All right. So, I mean, first thing, obviously, I know you grew up in a small town. I know it says you played sports. Sports were important to you as a young man. Did you collect cards at all? Was card collecting a thing for you as a younger man?
Yeah, my brother and I had a little kind of shared card collection, which, as if you have a brother, that was always kind of an interesting feat. But yeah, we had some card collections back in the day when, you could cut them out of the back of cereal boxes. And, we had a few official ones. But yeah, we lived pretty far out in the middle of nowhere. So there wasn't too many places you could get cards, But yeah, we had quite a little collection. In fact, I should hit my brother up where that stuff is now. Could be worth millions.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know, depending on what it is. I'm going to draw a little parallel between you and Michael Jordan, if I can try here.
Oh boy!
I read that you were cut from your freshman baseball team, and if anyone knows, Michael Jordan was cut from his freshman basketball team. I think it's safe to say you both went on to with all due respect to people on the team, to have pretty good careers in your own respect. So there's my correlation.
Thank you. I guess you're saying I'm the greatest of all time for 6-minute roles in baseball movies, maybe. Anyway, the only revenge I had on that is I went to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and of course my picture is in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So for all those guys who made the team my freshman year of high school baseball, it's my picture that's in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Tell them, hey, I made the Baseball Hall of Fame. Maybe not on the plaque, but I'm in there.
I went in the back door, but there I am.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's true. We can laugh at it tongue in cheek, but at the end of the day, it still rings true, and that's pretty cool. I'm in Syracuse, which is really only an hour and 10 minutes from the hall. I'm usually there 3 or 4 times a year. It's a wonderful place, as I'm sure you know, and yeah, and you're like you said, you're in it, so that's even cooler. I want to get more specifics into the movie, here at on the second half, but obviously the movies led to different opportunities. I read that you recently bought property in Dyersville, Iowa. Just kind of talk a little bit about that and some of the, the background there.
Well, I have occasion to go to Dyersville, several times a year. And there's this gorgeous old building there, brick and limestone. I found out it was from 1860, which I thought was interesting because that's sort of when baseball kind of became popularized in this country. And this building was kind of falling down. There was a hole in the roof for 5 years, and it had just been raining and snowing. And anyway, I just kept seeing it. And it was a little bit like a Ray Kinsella voice moment where I just kept picturing a sign, Kinsella's, hanging from this place. And I thought, oh gosh, but I live in California, and Iowa so far away. And anyway, I kept seeing this, it was for sale for years. And finally I just, I talked to a friend of mine and we ended up buying this building. And, we've been fixing it up, had to get the roof patched up first. And interestingly, we just got a 10-year lease with the If You Build It Museum, which is a museum they created about the making of the movie. And so they're opening, I think, maybe end of May. And my partner and I have decided to create the Baseball Hall of Dreams right next door, which will be a kind of an homage to players who maybe didn't have enough credentials to get into the Hall of Fame, but who, contributed great things to baseball. And we're going to include, stickball and all forms of baseball over the years, and, fantastic stories and minorities in baseball, women's leagues, Negro leagues. Anyway, we're just putting it together. Literally, I'm leaving Tuesday to, kind of start setting up the exhibits. And we're pretty excited about it, because so many baseball fans, of course, come to Dyersville every year. And, many more now that MLB is committed to doing 10 games over the next 15 years there. So anyway, we're excited about it. We have a collection of a couple hundred vintage baseball gloves, much like the one my dad taught us to play catch with when I was growing up. So anyway, we're going to have a lot of cool stuff there, but that's the basic plans. And we're going to, try to get a restaurant. We're going to set up batting cages. Anyway, should be cool. Come see us.
That's exciting. I look forward to seeing, your progress with that. And, you mentioned stickball. I'm in Syracuse, but I'm originally from New York City. Stickball, I'm old enough even to still remember that. My dad was a big stickball player, and it was good to hear that term again. There's some parts of the country may not be as familiar with it, but I know in New York that was a huge thing. And it's nice you're creating something to recognize folks that maybe, like you said, didn't get into the Hall of Fame, but you're going to acknowledge their achievements and their contributions, and just the same, and that's that's just an awesome thing.
My partner wants to have a stickball game the day of the big MLB game, August 11th, out on the street in front of our place. So we'll save a place on the stoop for you, John.
All right, I hope I can make it. I love to go. I've never been there yet, and like you said, MLB has announced, the 10 games in 15 years. We saw last year's game, which was tremendous. You didn't have to be a Yankee fan or a White Sox fan to appreciate that game. You were privileged and fortunate enough to be there. Speak about that. Like, this movie has just continues to expand into and a life of its own, into obviously real baseball with these major league games. And it's just cool. You get to sort of continue, and be a part of these things. Talk about, being there for last year's game.
Well, like you said, first of all, it was an amazing game. And they hadn't given me a ticket, so I was going to be watching it in downtown Dyersville, and finally somebody ponied up. But, I got great seats. And what was kind of amazing about it was, well, first of all, it's, 6,000 seats. So it's, the Yankees in a kind of like a minor league kind of setting. The field, the stadium they built was incredible. It had old barn siding, and they had the hand operated scoreboard, and the corn was just amazing. Everybody, was like rooting for anybody to hit it into the corn. I mean, what a fantastic, venue this was for baseball. And like you said, here's the Yankees and the White Sox. I swear, anytime anybody got a hit, 75% of the crowd went crazy. Like everybody was rooting for everybody. It was just one of those games that felt like it was we were cheering for baseball more than for the individual teams. And what a game, back and forth and home run after home run. And I don't know, it was just the most magical experience. And, and because of this movie, I end up getting experiences like that, which are, fantastic. I've been to, the TriStar show in Chicago for, memorabilia. I've been to Batavia card show I've just had, just fantastic good luck meeting Field of Dreams fans and, baseball fans all over the country.
Well, I'm glad you went. I know you first said like you didn't have a ticket. Like that's to me that's a travesty. I hope that's doesn't occur again. I mean, to me, that movie and you are synonymous. That scene, when we're going to get into more specifics, that scene really, even though it comes towards the end, that is the movie to me, and really set the tone of what I think most people think about the movie. That movie would be completely different if that scene wasn't in that movie. And we're going to get into that. But yeah, I hope you're included in all that stuff as you deserve to should be. No, there shouldn't even be a question
Well,
going forward.
from your mouth to God's ear, John. Thank you.
Well, you're
Well,
welcome, but I'm just being honest too. So
maybe not God's ear, but MLB's ear, which is
yeah, for sure. No doubt. We're going to step aside for a real quick break, but we'll be right back after that with more with Dwier Brown.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s and Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mans, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for all. Let's grow the hobby we love together. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
Sports Card Nation is back with actor Dwier Brown. I know you, in reading some of what you wrote and stuff, in your younger years, you had a little bit of a strained relationship with your dad, which you got to reconcile, before it was too late. And I know you spoke as we get now more into the movie, unfortunately passed away about a month before shooting on Field of Dreams began. Fortunately, you were there and you got to spend some time. And for me, the movie came out in 1989. I was 17. I was playing high school baseball. I was raised by my grandparents, Dwier, and so my grandfather passed away 5 years before in 1984, and he was my dad was in my life, but my grandfather was really who got me into baseball and practiced with me, played the catch and all that stuff. And so it was recent with him passing in 5 years. And then that movie just, I watched, I don't know how many times I've seen the movie, but it doesn't matter. I even watched the scene this morning just to kind of get revved up, and like a little baby, tears rolling down my face in my office here by myself. And it doesn't matter how, what's coming, the lines, the dialogue, but it just hits that central nerve. And the beauty of that moment, it can mean so many different things to so many different people. For me, it's thinking of my grandfather. For it could be an uncle, it could be a mom. It's however you interpret it internally. But going back, I'm rambling on here. With your own dad, and you got to kind of be there, and unfortunately, I have to say goodbyes. And then here you are, 30 days later, approximately. And you're doing this scene. I mean, just kind of talk about all that sort of jump, together. Like,
well, yeah. First of all, I'm sure your grandfather and your dad are really proud of who you've become. That's kind of exciting to think maybe they're watching Sports Card Nation from.
My dad's still with us.
Oh, awesome.
He's 83.
Oh,
and this is one of his. I got to call him later and tell him who I spoke to you, but he'll be ecstatic. One of his favorite movies as well. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's great. Well, of course, my father's passing was sudden and unexpected. I'd been cast in the movie. It was called Shoeless Joe at the time, and I was in L.A. And so I was going to fly back to Iowa to shoot, and I decided to come back a week early so I could hang out with my folks in Ohio and then go shoot the movie. Well, the day I got home from LA to Ohio, my father died that night. He had had some issues with Well, he died of cirrhosis of the liver, even though he wasn't a drinker at all. So that was a mystery to all of us. But so as an actor, I'm of course heartbroken. My father died, but I was worried that, when I got to shoot the movie, 30 days later, that I wouldn't be able to keep my emotions together, that I would just fall apart. I'd auditioned for the part doing the role a certain way, and I was just worried that I wouldn't be able to get through the scene, So it created an interesting problem for me. As it turns out, I sort of had trouble crying about my father's death. At the funeral, I was like, when is this going to hit me? I had this overwhelming sense of joy and relief that my dad, who'd had a pretty rough life, his dad was kind of very hard on him. He, of course, suffered through the Depression and World War II. And he was a wonderful man, but, didn't have a lot of the cards in his favor. And so somehow there was this sense of joy around him. And when I got to Iowa, of course, there's supposed to be these ghost players, and there's actual actors and extras playing them. And I sort of got this feeling that my dad was just amongst them somehow, that he was just another kind of ghost player, which was just the most pleasant feeling for me. It felt like he was sort of this hummingbird that was like flying to Jupiter, checking it all out, and then buzzing back, and was like, "Oh my gosh, Dwier, you should see this thing. The universe is amazing." And off he'd go, And so that created another problem. I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm not going to be able to get emotional at all, rather than, completely not be able to hold myself together. But, the scene that we shot, as it turns out, to make things even worse, this scene, which is only, 5 minutes long, you'd ordinarily shoot it in a day or maybe two. They decided to shoot that last scene in magic hour, which is that 15 minutes of golden light just after the sun goes down. Everything looks really beautiful and warm. And well, that's great, but that means this scene, we would only shoot it in these little chunks, and if any of you ever worked on a movie, you know how slowly it moves. They'd be shooting in the house, and it would get close to sunset, and everybody'd say, "Okay, out to the field." The whole crew would go down there, set up the dolly track, set up the lighting. They'd get the camera set up and sort of wait for just as the sun went down, and they'd say, "Okay, rolling." They'd say, action. I'd be like, "Is this heaven? Okay, let's do it again. Is this heaven? Okay, that's all we have time for." And we'd be done. And then the next day, we'd come back, and right around sunset, down we'd rush, and then there'd be Kevin. "No, it's Iowa. No, it's Iowa." Okay, that's it. So we ended up shooting this scene almost a line at a time over the 2 weeks that I was there in Iowa, which, if any of you have ever done acting, it's hard enough to get kind of emotional and hold that place once for a good take, let alone time, day after day after day after day. So needless to say, it was a challenging scene. And with my recent, grief over my dad, it made it all the more difficult. But what was kind of neat was that as we started doing the scene, I think everybody in the crew, and there's, maybe 70 or 80 people, around a movie set, I think they were all kind of thinking of their dads, and in their own way, kind of bringing their own fathers to this little baseball field carved out in the middle of the cornfield. And if you haven't been there, it is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's way out there. But it would get quieter and quieter each day as we shot this scene, because everybody was kind of like, having their own little moment with their fathers, I think, while we were shooting it. And, by the end of the 2 weeks, and all we had left to shoot was the actual catch.
All right, we have to take another quick break, but we'll be back real quick to talk to Dwier Brown again about the iconic catch scene and what went into it, and a lot of behind-the-scenes info that we didn't know about as viewers. I think you'll find it very interesting. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Are you a new sports card collector or someone that's returning to the hobby? Maybe you're just looking for a friendly, trustworthy community to hang out with and enjoy collecting. Midwest Box Breaks has been bringing collectors together for almost 4 years with affordable breaks, helpful Twitter threads, and a Discord group packed with generous people who care about the hobby and other collectors. Check out the breaks at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. First-timers can use the coupon code MBB10 and save 10% on their first order. Your first break mail will also include a bonus card, so no one strikes out on their first break. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. We've even launched an NFT project dedicated to the hobby. Find us on Twitter at Midwest Box Break. We are back with actor, author Dwier Brown and some behind-the-scenes tidbits about one of the most iconic movie scenes in baseball movie history, at least.
When the helicopter is, they left that shot for last because, it was the biggest thing in the movie and, more expensive than any other frame of that we shot. We were ready to go. And then, of course, I wrote a book because there's so many interesting details about this, but in that scene, of course, there's a helicopter and it's the thing. And it's, again, they have to match the light. We've been shooting at magic hour. So it's got to be light enough to match that. But at the same time, it has to be dark enough that you can see the headlights of the cars going on for 3 miles. Those are real people in real cars. This is back before CGI. They were all listening on their AM radio to Phil Robinson, the director, who's broadcasting like, start your engines. Okay, everybody, we're rolling. Start to creep forward in your car. It was a huge, huge deal that this shot was even going to get made at all. We thought we had one take at it. Well, anyway, once the helicopter starts roaring up, you can't hear anything. We don't have a radio because everything is in the shot. Off they go, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, what if I drop the ball? Like, what if Kevin throws me this and just for whatever, I got this vintage catcher's mitt that was like a brick in my hand. It was. And, it's just such a funny thing. I played catch with my brother like a billion times in our backyard, but I thought, here's this moment where the father, the minor league baseball player, has finally arrived. And boom, I was thinking, oh, I'd look like an idiot. So anyway, there was added stress. But despite all that, and the fact that the first couple takes of it got ruined, the movie obviously turned out well. But it was a very stressful shoot. And poor Phil Robinson, the director, nearly had a nervous breakdown with all the things that were going wrong.
Yeah, I'm not an actor, but knowing, from being a fan of movie, reading it, I knew, I think we're sport as viewers of movies, whether it be in the theater or home. I think we're spoiled, because we see the movie, we think, oh, that was done in the time we're watching it. Like it's all real time. Where you said that scene, 2 weeks and. It's hard to get in any rhythm. Like you said, you're trying to deliver the line and then, okay, our time's up for today. You're like, you can't, it's hard to get, you don't have to be an actor to know it's hard to get in any kind of rhythm under those circumstances. And you got to keep doing that. One of the questions I do have on my list, kind of a funny question. You talked about the catch with Kevin Costner. Was that done in one day or did you have to do that numerous times?
Well, like I said, we thought we had one take at it because of the lighting situation. If it got too dark, then it wouldn't have worked. Well, we did the whole thing and, the cars moved and all that stuff. And this was before they had kind of playback where you could actually take a look at it and see if it worked. This was, so you were kind of going blind and the light seemed okay. So they said, hey, let's do this again. But, here's this, there's a camera operator named Davy Jones who's hanging out the side of this helicopter while they're, there was just so many moving parts to that. So we do another take and it still kind of looks, it just doesn't kind of look good to everybody. So they decided to one last take. And so they do the take and then it's just, they're not going to find out until they go process the film. And a week later, so Phil Robinson, the director, told me this after the movie. I had no idea as the actor, but when I was researching my book, I found out that, so they look at the first take and when the camera pans up from the field to the line of cars, it goes to black. It's just black. There's nothing there. And they're like, what happened? What could have possibly happened? So they let's go see second take. Second take, pan up, same thing, black. And they're like, oh my gosh. I mean, this is a shot that they can't replicate. They can't do over.
Yeah.
And they go to the third take and because it hadn't looked great, Phil had told everybody in through the AM radio in their cars to flash their lights on and off. Because what was happening is because there were so many cars, they couldn't move anymore because they'd already started down the driveway. To do the second take, you couldn't back up 3,000 cars. So they weren't really moving. But somebody had the idea to flash the lights. And so anyway, the third take comes up and there they are. And because people are flashing their lights, it gives the illusion that they're moving behind trees or whatever, so that the headlights are blocked for a second. Anyway, that was the give and take, that we ended up seeing from the movie. And it turns out what happened is, so I told you, Davy Jones is hanging out here with his camera. His camera assistant when they pan up from the bright field to the dark sky, he had to open the iris of the camera. And in all the confusion, I mean, falling out of the helicopter, your life at stake, he closed the iris instead of opening it for the first 2 takes. And so that's why it went to black, and that those takes were useless. But in the final one, he opened it, and but those kind of both difficult and magical things happened over and over with that movie. As many people know, it was a drought in '88 when we shot the movie. The corn wouldn't grow. So they're shooting every other scene of the movie just waiting for the corn, and there's no rain. The corn is this tall, and how stupid it would be for the players to be walking in, ankle high corn. Well, they got special permission to water the corn, which, farmers don't do in Iowa. They just know sooner or later the rain will come, but we had to shoot, So they did that. They also ordered 40,000 fake silk stalks of corn from Hong Kong that were on hold that they were going to have to shove into the ground. And we'd be walking out of this, artificial corn field. So they get everything else shot. It's blazing hot. It's this terrible drought. Anyway, finally they can start shooting some of the corn stuff, which is, if you watch that movie, there's corn in a lot of shots. So when they got it there, Kevin's supposed to be inspecting the corn from early on in the movie. You can see it. Well, the corn at this point is now 7 feet tall because with the water and the heat, it's growing like crazy. So you can't even see Kevin walking through it. So they had to build a platform between the rows of corn so that Kevin could be walking along the corn and looking like it's, this high. He can be inspecting it. And anyway, so if Kevin had taken one extra step, he would have disappeared into the abyss of corn. But nonetheless, none of those things happen. And when you watch the movie, like you said, it looks perfect. Like, oh my gosh, you guys must have had so much fun. And it's just so easy. And, it was really one of the most cursed shoots I've ever been on. And of course, it's one of the, the best movies I've been involved with. So
I'm going to take another quick break to hear from one of our great sponsors. But when we come back, Dwier Brown fills us in on more about that scene and being everybody's father.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
Sports Card Nation has returned with actor Dwier Brown. So I got to ask you, with the catch scene with you and Kevin, so no wild throws, no drop balls, that all came out. The scene was...
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was just such a funny thought that I had, with the people risking their life. I'm thinking, what if I drop the ball? Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I played baseball. I'd be like, this is the last time. This is the worst time if I'm ever gonna make a bad throw.
Yeah, exactly.
Catch.
Yeah. Anyway.
But it all worked out. You mentioned, the third take. What do you know? What Phil Robinson, the director, would have done had, let's say, the third take was the same as the first two? I mean, what do you think?
I imagine they would have had to come up with. I think what's fortunate is such a dark scene. Maybe they would have, because CGI hadn't been invented yet. They might have created a miniature with tiny little twinkle lights or something to make it work. But I really don't know. I should have asked him that if his mind was reeling. He's a very smart guy, but thank goodness it didn't come to that.
Yep. And that scene, and I'm not just saying this, this is from the heart. That scene, the movie is very good, but that scene makes the movie great. To me, that scene is what it comes again, obviously at the end of the movie, and it really, I don't want to say set the tone, because tone is kind of set earlier, but it's what the movie really, the folk becomes about. When people leave that theater, a lot of people with tears streaming down their face, myself included, even to this day. It doesn't matter how many times I watch that scene. I know what you're going to say. I know what Kevin Costner is going to say, and it still gets me like every single time. That made just a really good movie, a great movie, and in a way, you've become, sort of a father figure to millions of people. I mean, with that scene. I mean, you ever think about it along those lines? Like you realize like the significance of that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would add that I get emotional watching that scene, and I'm in it, so I know that it's
Yeah.
something beyond, my participation or anything. They really captured something, fathers and sons or second chances. It really amazes me every time. I still go to screenings. I've seen the movie, so many times, and it's still I tear up. What was your question?
Well, I mean, the scene itself, like I said, makes the movie,
Oh,
but I mean, in a way,
yeah.
you're sort of representative of millions of people's dads.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've had that experience. I got recognized, for decades, and it always surprised me because, I don't think I looked that much like I did, but I think because that scene's so emotional and the people who are invested in it, my face is 40 feet high, tattooed on their optic nerve or something. But I've had the most profound encounters with strangers in airports and grocery stores who, once they recognize me from the movie, they feel compelled to tell me, about their dad or about their, relationship with baseball or these amazing things that happen to them that it feels like they've never told anybody in their life. And here I am, this stranger, this actor who, decades ago was in this movie. And I try to be very present for people because, having lost my dad the way I did so close to that movie, it feels to me each one of these encounters feels like my opportunity to kind of get a chance to touch my dad again, through somebody else's relationship with their dad. And so to me, it's very profound and somewhat, sacred for me. I sometimes think of myself as a traveling priest hearing these confessions that, like I said, I swear sometimes I feel like I'm being told something for the first time by somebody who was too afraid to unburden themselves to somebody else. And, I frequently end up, embracing, hugging these people and, telling them, whatever I can. I try to channel John Kinsella for a few moments and be that father that you always wanted, who maybe, has the freedom to tell you, my gosh, I'm so proud of you, whereas your dad is always thinking, I don't want to give him too much praise or he'll go off the rails. And, all those kind of things that, I know as a father myself, you have to kind of couch your all your feelings. I certainly, tell my kids I love them all the time, which is something, my dad never was able to say to me. I certainly know he did love me, but it's a fascinating predicament, a wonderful predicament I find myself in, when I talk to people, because I think it means so much to them, and I try, it means so much to me. So it's really rewarding, and all this out of an acting career and a 6-minute role in a movie, 34 years ago. So anyway.
Well, you can put whatever time you want on it, Dwyer. 6 minutes, 30 minutes. That 6 minutes is there's a lot of actors that wish they had those kinds of 6 minutes on their resume. They may have more minutes, on their resume, but those kind of minutes where they touch people on that level. We're not even talking just some a parent or a loved one passing away, but I've even heard people say that scene, their dad or someone in their family still alive, they're just estranged. They haven't talked to them in years. They had an argument or a falling out, but it was that scene that made them reconsider. Like, hey, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to be the first one to sort of bury the hatchet and try to reach out and fix this. And so it's not even just in someone passing, but even relationships still that can be amended and fixed and repaired. And so even on that level, to have that sort of effect is just you can't put that in words. I'm sure
I've heard hundreds of stories, and similar but also very different, and I've been just very touched by it. I put, I think, 9 or 10 of them in the book because they're just all so profound to me and meaningful that and it was my way of, to me, I think of the book as sort of having a catch with people, people love that movie and want to hear the story. So I throw them some stories, and then frequently I'll run into them somewhere or on email or on book reviews. They throw the ball back to me. Oh, my dad was a fireman and, or minor league baseball player. Anyway, it's this kind of great thing where when you share something that emotional, it frequently prompts other people to share back. And it's very much like a game of catch, I think.
Yeah, I saw two comments on a message board that kind of struck me as kind of funny, but ring true. One, I saw the movie when I was 17. I went with a couple of my baseball teammates from high school. I think there was three of us. I know I cried, and I believe one of the other my friends was tearing. I think one was trying to fight him back. But I read something on a message board where a person said they were 17 as well. They went to see the movie. They went with their girlfriend at the time, and they were bawling like a little baby, and the girlfriend made fun of them and didn't get the significance. And the funny comment was she wasn't my girlfriend for much longer after that. And he's like, I'm married, but that was my test that she sort of wasn't the one that movie kind of
interestingly
weeded.
The other end of that spectrum that I've heard is how many people had their first date with their wife at Field of Dreams, and then they ended up getting married. And I think it's because, women, when they see you cry like that, it shows another side of you that, might never come out, and it makes you a kind of a more, full rounded person. And so I think it's kind of interesting that both ends of that spectrum, if you can make fun of that moment, then you're not the kind of person who sees the ghost players. You know what I mean? That's the way I always think. You're sort of like Mark, the brother-in-law who can't see the baseball. He walks right through the field because he can't see it, But if you do have that magic, you can see the players, and you can also feel the very delicate emotions that movie invokes.
The other comment too I want from that message board, and I thought it was kind of funny, is the poster said, like, to become like a naturalized citizen, you got to take the test. They said the scene itself should be on the test, where if they don't cry after seeing it, then they can't be allowed to be a citizen. I thought that was kind of funny too.
Yeah.
All right, going to hear from one of our great sponsors, but we'll be right back with more with Dwier Brown. We've returned with actor-writer Dwier Brown.
There's been some fantastic comments. When you think how often Field of Dreams is it's so ubiquitous in our society, if you build it and is this heaven and all those things, it really is remarkable that movie, gave birth to all that sort of that sentiment and those, fantastic little catchphrases that are everywhere.
Yeah, it's incredible. I've seen it. I got it too many times to count. I'm a Godfather fan. I'd say Godfather and Field of Dreams are my two movies. And if I'm changing channels and I run into, frankly, either one of those movies, even though I've seen them both millions of times, or so it seems, I stop and my channel surfing's done. And no matter what part of the movie I come in on, whether it's the beginning, the middle, or towards the end, we're gonna watch it. And it just and again, like I said, I'm not every time. It does not matter. And I know my dad, it gets him the same way, and he's in his 80s, and it just a classic movie. I think, I'll say this, and this is not lip service, Dwier. I mean, when you think of, classic and great movie scenes, when, this has to be right up there, at least in my mind, on my list, it's right there as one of the greatest movie scenes, not just from a great movie, but the scene itself. I mean, again, did you know, even, I know you did it, like you said, over the course of 2 weeks, and then even the final, but even in that process, did you realize how important this scene would be to the movie? Did you,
I really, really didn't. And I'm kind of surprised that I didn't, but the only defense I have, because, obviously I read the script, but in the book that the movie's based on, called Shoeless Joe, by W.P. Kinsella, the father appears in the first chapter, and Ray sort of has a conversation with him throughout the whole book. And one of the great alterations that Phil Robinson made from the novella to the screenplay was that he put the appearance of the father at the end. And because I was so familiar with the book and I'd only had the script for a bit, I just really didn't understand how profound that moment would be. The other thing I couldn't take into consideration while we were shooting it was James Horner' beautiful score that got nominated for an Oscar, and it's a score I hear so much now. I feel like he wrote this thing that people have tried to sample or steal from over the years, but that score I think also sort of makes the momentum of the movie like a storm coming across the prairie. And so then when my face appears, it has this weight to it that I couldn't have anticipated when we were shooting the movie or even reading the script. So to me, those two things, obviously I benefited greatly from the advantage of having, that great, and as a side note, Jamie Horner, who passed unfortunately from a plane crash, probably 5 or 6 years ago, he had a difficult relationship with his dad too. And to me, again, I think when everybody on the cast and crew was bringing their own father and son relationship and mother and daughter, and that it contributed to the profundity of that and the universality of that father-son kind of conflict and that Oedipal conflict, we all have, where you're trying to become a man and your dad is the person who's, your role model, and you have to come to grips with that in some way or another, by outdoing him or all those things that as men we deal with and it affects our lives. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the score too. I mean, it was perfectly set. It's funny when I watched it even this morning. Like again, I think sometimes you hear it so much, it almost kind of fades into the background. But for whatever reason, when I watched today, I realized, man, that the music itself was just perfectly set. Like even almost if you took the dialogue out, it still hits you in a sort of way. I mean, obviously the dialogue makes the scene what it is, but just both of those elements together, the score, your guys' dialogue, both, it really just, that's why I believe it's one of the greatest scenes in movie history.
One of the great things that MLB did when at the game this year was, they had the maize cut through the corn, which was fantastic, but they had speakers hidden in the corn playing the track, from the movie, which just, they're just so evocative. It just puts you in that feeling of nostalgia and in the world of the movie. And I think it really contributed to how magical that game was.
Yeah, I think I had goosebumps watching in my living room just when you hear that, and just an incredible movie, incredible scene, incredible performance by all the actors, but especially you with that scene, and will live on, for generations even to come. And for me to get to talk to you, Dwier, this is a huge honor, and I wanted to thank you for making a tremendous movie, one that my son loves it. It's one of those that gets just passed down to generation, like the game itself. The movie has become sort of synonymous with the game of baseball, not even just the game of baseball, but life in general. And it's just
even the father-son thing, of course, is universal. Everybody's got a father, whether they were there for them or whatever. It really kind of captures that very complex and sometimes difficult relationship.
Yeah. Well, I thank you. I know you're a busy guy. Like you said, you're about to head off to get that project in Iowa underway. That should be very cool. I look forward to following you on social media and keeping abreast as that thing grows and becomes what it's going to be. I appreciate you giving us, me, and the show some time. I'm sure many people listen to the show. It'll I know it rings true for them as well. I always give our guests the last word: websites, books, where people can get the book, where people can check out what you're doing, where you're going to be. Take your time as much as you need. Give out all that information for those listening.
Well, thank you, John. The book I mentioned is called If You Build It. It's available on Amazon or on my website, and all my social media is just at Dwier Brown, DWIER Brown. The building we're working on, we're calling it the baseball building because it was, built in 1860 when baseball, and it's, there's a website, and the Baseball Hall of Dreams is the name of our thing. So anyway, I hope I'll see you. I'm going to be back in Syracuse, and I hope some of you come out to the ballpark and we'll have some fun.
Here's the crazy thing, Dwier. I checked the date. You're here July 30th, and I'm really disappointed. Not your fault. I'm at a national convention for sports cards that week. That's in Atlantic City.
Oh my!
So
wow.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to meeting you. We'll meet somewhere. I even if I have to do a little traveling myself, we'll get it done. With just bad timing there. I had when I looked at the date, and I only live about 2 miles from NBT Bank Stadium here in Syracuse. It's just I'll be in New Jersey when you're here. Other than that, I'd be there with bells on and would look forward. But like I said, well, if I have to travel a little bit, so be it. But I look forward to hopefully meeting you in person as well. Maybe play a catch.
Yeah, when we find that, then I'll just have to say, hey, John, you want to have a catch?
I'd like that. Awesome stuff. Thanks, Dwier. I can't thank you enough. I'll put for those listening, I'll put all the Dwier's website where you can find all that info in our show notes. So if you don't catch it when he said it, just look there. Either way, you know where to go. So thanks again.
Thank you, John.
One more quick break, but I'll be back with some closing thoughts.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com. Or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Sports Card Nation. Thank you to Dwier Brown for giving the show some time, giving us a behind the scenes, behind the curtains look at one of my favorite movies of all time, Field of Dreams, and learned a lot of stuff that you won't realize watching in the theater or at home. You have no idea, and hope you found it interesting. I love, obviously, all the interviews I get to do, and I'm very blessed and fortunate I get to do them. But this one today was a whole lot of fun, and really down-to-earth, great guy. We conversated some even, not recording, and really, that scene is one of the most iconic in movie history, and a lot of stuff we learned about it, right, that we didn't know when we watch it again, like I said, in the theater or in our living room. We had no idea of some of the stuff that goes into that. So hope you enjoyed the interview. A little shameless plug for our website. Check out our website at www.sportscardnationpodcast.com. Very easy. www.sportscardnationpodcast.com.
That's a wrap on another edition of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Thank you to all the awesome listeners out there. Without you, there is no us. Thank you to all our great guests who drive this show, and also our wonderful sponsors who help us produce the great hobby content every week. Remember, another Hobby Quick Hits episode drops every Monday, and Sports Card Nation returns again next Friday. If you like the shows, we appreciate those positive reviews. Be well, and always remember, the hobby is the people.